Hi everyone, it's Naomi here from Sheroes of History. Sheroes of History is a weekly blog telling the stories of inspiring historical heroines. If you haven't checked us out before, please do go and have a look. I'd love for you to find out more. Today I'm going to be telling you about Bessie Coleman, who was an amazing aviatrix. Bessie's featured on our blog, but I wanted to do a video about her so that hopefully more people can find out about the cool lady that she was. So Bessie was born in 1892 in America. As a girl, she loved reading, she loved maths, but because of segregation at the time, she had to walk 4 miles to go to school every day. When she got a little older, she moved to Chicago and she got a job in a beauty parlour where she was painting people's nails. Now around this time, the First World War broke out and Bessie's older brothers left America to go and serve in France. After the war had ended and they returned to America, they would tell Bessie stories of the things that they'd seen while they were away. She particularly loved to hear about the stories of the aeroplanes which they'd seen in France, especially as they told her that some of the French women had learnt how to fly the planes too. Well, Bessie's imagination was fired. She decided that what she wanted to do was learn how to fly planes and become a pilot. She went to several flying schools in America to ask them if they would teach her how to fly, but one after another, they all said no, closing their doors to her. This was because A, she was a woman, and B, she was a black woman. And in those times, those were two things which were going to stop you from learning how to fly. Well, not Bessie. She found out about a school in France that would teach her how to fly. She was really excited, but of course there were two big problems she had to overcome first. Firstly, it was all the way in France and she was in America, so she had to figure out a way to get there. And secondly, she didn't speak a word of French. Well, Bessie wasn't one to be put off by a challenge. She spoke to a friend of hers who agreed that he would give her some money to support her towards achieving her dreams and going to France to learn how to fly. But the rest of the money she'd have to come up with herself. So she got herself a job at a restaurant and she worked really hard, saving every penny that she could to fulfill her dreams of going to France and learning how to fly. In the evenings when she got home from work, she got out her books and she studied French, teaching herself how to speak the language. Finally, she had enough money and enough lingo to be able to go to Paris and take her very first flying lesson. Well, only months later, she received her pilot's license, making her the first black person anywhere in the world to learn how to fly. When she came home to America, she was famous. Everyone had heard about her for being the first black person to earn their pilot's license. But at that point, all she could do was fly her aeroplane in straight lines, much like anyone else. While that was exciting, it wasn't as exciting as it could be, and people wanted to see more. So she went back to Europe, she went to Germany this time, and there she learnt how to fly in all sorts of crazy new ways. She learnt to do loop-de-loop, she learnt how to fly upside down, she even learnt how to parachute out of a plane. And when she returned to America, she was in demand to go and perform her air tricks at shows all around the country. She became really famous and people started to call her Queen Bess. Well, eventually she earned enough money through doing these shows that she could buy her very own airplane. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest plane around, and in a tragic accident, right at the peak of her fame, Bessie crashed her plane and sadly died. Although she'd fulfilled her dream of becoming a pilot, there was one more dream that she hadn't had the chance to see come true. She'd always wanted to start a school, a flying school, to teach other young girls, particularly black girls and women, who had a dream like her of how to fly. Well, after her death, several of her friends who knew about this dream got together and decided that they would make it come true. So they founded the Bessie Coleman Aero Club, and it was a school where other young people, particularly black people, could go and learn how to fly. Bessie's still famous in America now, where people remember her for her braveness and her courage and her amazing flying skills. She even appeared on an American stamp once. If you want to find out any more about Bessie's life, there is a blog post on the Sheroes of History blog. There's also a free fact sheet which you can download and find out more about her. And that's a really great way to share her story with children and young people. There's even a few French words on there which you can learn with them too. Please go and have a look at the Sheroes of History blog, which you can find at sheroesofhistory.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at Sheroes History. Bye!